Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Ass Delivered. I'm your host, Truckin' Ray, and today on the show, we're going to talk with people who not only live in the industry, but they make it better. Today's guest is Jennifer Ann Warner, a professional driver, turned entrepreneur, author, and wellness advocate. She's the founder of Compass and Convoy Creative and the author of The Rough Road Ahead, a driver's guide to resilience. Her work focuses on something we don't talk enough about in the trucking industry, and that's the human side of the job, the isolation, the burnout, the emotional way that comes with being behind all those miles. This is going to be a real conversation about retention, empathy, wellness, and what it actually takes to support drivers and not just manage them. Jennifer, welcome to the show. Jennifer, it's so nice to have you on the show. I'm so glad that you're here. I see you're out there on the road, making big changes happen. So we're gonna make sure we get this show going for you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. It really means a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean you're doing great things out there. You're helping drivers stay with their jobs and also stay healthy out there on the road. I mean it's a lot of work that goes into what we do. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what life is like for you when you got to put this book together before the business? You were a driver. What pulled you into the trucking industry originally?
Well, if I'm being completely honest, in a nutshell, what pulled me into the industry was my husband, Harry. It's also his birthday today, so I'm being extra nice. I was a school bus driver in New Jersey, and I had done that for about 5 years. And he had uh, been doing all things trucks for decades, but it was mostly local things, regional things. And so in early January 2021, he got his first OTR job. And it's something he'd wanted to do since he was a boy. It was his lifelong dream. Broke my heart, but that's what he wanted to do. So of course I'm going to support him. He was driving for a smaller company up in the northwest corner of New Jersey, and he would be out for about a week or so at a time. And then he came home about 6, 7 weeks later, and he looked me straight in the eye. He's like, "I want you to do this with me." What? Like, I'm a school bus driver. What are you talking? Can I do this? Are you
Yeah.
sure? He's like, no. I believe in you. You can do this. I've seen so many things. We were two kids from New Jersey. We've known each other for decades, and we've basically lived all our lives in New Jersey. So for him to go out there, he's like, I want to share this with you. I've seen sights and things that I never thought I'd see, and I want to share that with you. And that's kind of a hard invitation to turn down. And so by July of 2021, we've been driving together. We've been driving together ever since. He's out on the road. I'm working full time. I'm training when I can. By the way, we're also I speak of him as my husband. We were actually in the midst of planning our wedding at the same time.
Oh,
So by so I passed my test in June. We got married the end of June. We started driving on July 5th, and we've been driving together ever since.
wow. I mean, man, that's life on the road, romance, and a lot of great memories to be right there, right there on the road. A lot of people probably have had that same experience, and thanks for sharing that, man. That's awesome.
Of course, of
Yeah, you see
course.
a lot of team drivers out there, and you're like, man, how do they do it? And then to see a couple, that's even more, that's even more special. So thank you. What kind of driving are you doing out there?
We are basically OTR. We've been since we moved down to Alabama. We followed work down here a couple years ago, and so we're working for a smaller company doing basically OTR freight, handling pretty much everything east of 35. We do a lot of, obviously, we've been to Syracuse a lot. We sometimes do runs to Miami.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do laterals to the Carolinas. Every once in a while, we were up in Oregon and Washington not too long ago, and sometimes down to Phoenix in that
Wow.
area.
In the early days, what are the lessons you learned in those first couple years being together?
Wow. Um, you realize that there is a line between your relationship and your work relationship, and there has to be, actually, because you have to realize that we rely on each other. I mean, we're husband and wife, and we rely on each other to keep ourselves safe on the road. It's not just a trust in a relationship, it's a trust that, I'm literally putting my life in your hands. And that brings it to a whole nother different level.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you see those bad accidents out there. I mean, how bad would that be to be asleep when that's happening, or trying to get some sleep when it's happening? It's dangerous out there.
And
These
what
roads.
and that's what's and yes, absolutely. And that's one of the things that inspired him to ask me to do it, because when he had first started working, he had gone through a couple different partners, couple different drivers. They were driving in teams. And he said, he's like, I trust you. I trust you implicitly. I trust you with my life. And
Nice.
that was another motivating factor to put me on the road with him.
Excellent. I mean, that's nice. Great teamwork there, guys. So you
Yeah.
describe your work. What would you say for, that it's written for drivers by someone who lived it? Your book, your work. What were you experiencing out there that made you feel like drivers weren't being fully understood?
I think it was that it was a completely different experience for me. I had spent all of my life in New Jersey. I would be home every night, or I would be home every day, whatever the case may be. And I think that I had struggles with missing my family, missing relationships. I still have family up in the Northeast. And there were times where it's like they don't want to, where you come across holidays and celebrations, and you want to be a part of that, and it's not always possible. And that was heartbreaking to me. That was something that I took, I guess I could almost say I took for granted, because that was something that I enjoyed tremendously, being part of family and celebrations, and being a part of their lives, and then being a part of ours as well.
Yeah.
And the one thing that really struck me was, even as driving as a team, I struggled with loneliness
Mm-hmm.
and isolation, because even though we drive together, he's literally 3 feet behind me. He's
Mm-hmm.
got to sleep.
Yep.
And so you would think that we would spend, you're like, oh, well, you guys must see each other all the time, talk to you. How can you say you're lonely? That's not how it works. That's
Yeah.
not how it works. And the one thing that struck me is like, I can't believe that I'm the only one. I can't believe that I am the only one who feels lonely and isolated. I for so many, all the drivers. And I believe that the numbers actually have turnover rates still in the 90s and 100% in the industry. People
Hmm.
are leaving it because it's a difficult job, not only physically, but also emotionally as well.
Man, that's amazing. When did you realize that your side of the story needs to have a voice? You need to say it out loud. I mean, they're always talking about pay, freight regulations, turnover numbers, but rarely about the emotional health, isolation, and the identity part of being a truck driver and what it does to your life. So, just like you said, the loneliness. Many people can relate to that. When did you feel like it was a time to make that change and say it out loud?
Because I'm looking around, and you see that people are struggling. I mean, and the companies overall, they weren't addressing it. When I'm looking and I'm talking to, um, there were points where I would struggle in the company, and we would be out in, like, I'll give a better example. I was out in California, and we were at a shipper notorious for very, very long delays in getting us back out. And I remember voicing my opinion to a dispatcher at the time. I think it was like right before Christmas. And I said, I have these things. And I think I was just venting more than anything else.
Mhm.
And the response I got was, well, this industry isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
And that was like, so you're not, I really, that was one time I just felt like I was not heard. I was not heard.
Nice.
And so I figured, if I'm going to, if, all right, if you're not going to listen to me, then I guess, if maybe I'm the one who's got to speak up and say it. And
Yep.
that's where the book came from, is that it's not about just doing what you need to do on the road. It's about living the lifestyle. This is a lifestyle. And
Right.
because there's a lifestyle, there has to be a mindset there with it. And there has to be things to help you cope and make the most and not just survive, but thrive out here on the road.
That's amazing, and you're doing it. I mean, what a statement to say that to someone. It's kind of a passive aggressive statement a little bit there to maybe it's their opinion, but that's not the truth. I mean, you're doing it, so never mind what that person had to say there, right?
No, you know what, I've when I was working at the school bus company, I used to tell, because there were so many layers to that industry in and of itself, not just the CDL part of it, but I would tell my trainees that um, getting the license is the easy part.
Mhm.
Now you have everything else that goes with it, and the same applies right here. It's the same thing. You're not just getting a license and learning how to park and doing a pre-trip. You're living life out on a road, and you're hundreds, maybe thousands of miles away from people, and it's real easy that um, like I say in the book, a lot of the stuff that I have is common sense. But when you're out there and you're isolated, sometimes your mind will just kind of throw back into like a survival mode, and you don't want to reach out. You don't want to feel like your people are depending on you, and you don't want them to think that you're suffering. You don't want them to think that you're weak. You don't want them to think that you're having a hard time, because they're depending on you. And
Yeah.
so it's tough to share that. And I think I want the book to say, yeah, it's okay. So the book's not only just for the drivers themselves. I'd love to see the families use it as a resource too, because they can
Mm.
say, hey, this is what he's feeling. This is what she's feeling. This is how, what they're going through. Let's work as a unit. Let's work as a unit.
That's nice. I mean, yeah. I mean, we need dispatch, we need truckers, we need shippers, we need the couriers to all work together as one to get the job done. I mean, think about the family unit. I mean, it is small comparison to the world, but the trucking industry, being small that it can be like a family. And we can make it a good one, or we can make it a bad one. So, yeah. I mean, statements like that, that's fine. That's not and jump all over him, but or her, but it's the fact that, people go through rough times and they need a little
Absolutely.
encouragement. Maybe they were looking at a way to see if you wanted to get out of it. Hey, let us know. So yeah, I mean, it can go either way. The rough
No,
road
no,
ahead,
no.
huh?
It could go. No, it's absolutely, it could go either way. I'm not.
Yeah,
I realize that there are there's good and bad, and there's good and bad everywhere, like you said, in families and companies everywhere. But I think that was just a defining moment where
mhm,
I could say that if that's a voice that's willing to put that message out, then maybe I need the voice to say, hey, you know what? Maybe drivers need a little more support in that
yeah.
area.
Yeah, I mean, the book that you put out, The Rough Road Ahead, I mean, it says it all right there. I mean, life can be a challenge from the as soon as you come out of the womb. I mean, you take your first breath, you're fighting to the day you take your last breath. I mean, it's a lot of that goes into it. And getting your CDL, you do a lot of things that can get your heart rate going and make you wonder, hey, can I get through this? I got to fight to get back home, And that CDL is about what you make it, so what you put into it. From Let's talk about the book a little bit. From what I understand, it
Sure.
isn't just about motivational writing. It's a structure actually to help drivers build resilience in a practical way. So it comes to nutrition. That's going to be hard. Realistic nutrition strategies that work uh, from the sleeper cab, simple movement exercises and habits that you can do anywhere, stress management techniques that are built around the actual road life, and reflection tools that help drivers process what they've been dealing with mentally. I mean, I think that's great. Just wanted to ask you, what gap were you trying to fill with this book? Were there drivers that were dealing with this that you heard, or you were getting this information elsewhere?
I would look around at my fellow drivers, and I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not the picture of athletic health. I'm going to tell you that right now. But I remember that when I was home, I was more active. I could stop and I could exercise. I could go and stop and at a salad bar and get something more healthy to eat. And I'm looking around at my fellow drivers, like, a lot of us are in the same boat here.
Hmm.
We're all and you look at the statistics that there was a study that just came out that the the median age of a driver, median life expectancy of a truck driver is 61 years old. I'm not that far from that.
Mm.
And that just comes from, years and years of an unhealthy life cycle, life habits that are not conducive to longevity. And so what I'm doing, I was just saying, if you're going to be a driver, if somebody's just getting out of school, these are tools that they can use and say, hey, you know what, that's right. I just thought, to get something in a truck stop and eat. It's not as easy as that if you want to stay in this business as long, if you want a long and thriving career in this business.
Absolutely. I mean, the pursuit of it is going to always be in front of you, just like your goal, trying to make it from point A to point B. Even your nutrition and your physical exercise, I think it's huge. I mean, for me, I have to try to push myself as soon as I get out of the truck, go right to the gym. I mean, try my best to eat while I'm out there. One of the things I've been using is Factor. I think there's no ad here, but hey, just spread the word. I don't have to do a lot of meal preps, and I just throw it in my cooler and get ready to go. That's been helping me change my game.
Okay.
Athletic. We're like an occupational athlete, so you got to be able to move and move around all that junk food and keep going out there. I mean, it takes a lot of work, you know. So yeah, uh,
And an additional struggle that we have is because we're team drivers. I mean, if you're a solo driver, you can stop for 10 hours and you
mm,
can get your sleep and you can do some exercise and you have more time to prioritize things. As a team trucking, that truck is really not supposed to stop for
mm,
hardly anything except for fuel and for brakes, and that's it. So
mm.
you really have to prioritize what's important to you in that moment. You've got to prioritize that your nutrition, your hydration, activity. You have to, because you're only going to have a very small amount of time in your day to make it happen, or you've got to just make things work in the truck itself.
Nice. And you also position this book something for management and leadership. Professionals in the industry can use this to help, their team. I think that was a really good thing that you added in there on why this book is important for leaderships to help drivers, to help companies that may be trying to help them stop burnout or turnover. What would you say is one of the biggest things that people ignore or some of the causes of driver retention?
I think they think drivers are invincible. They think you're just sitting and driving. How hard could it be? I
Hmm.
think that's the biggest fallacy that keeps getting compounded over and over. It's like you're just sitting, you're just driving. How hard could it be? They're not taking into account that we've got 80,000 pounds that we're trying to maneuver. They don't consider weather. They don't consider driving conditions. They don't consider any of that. They don't consider that we've been away from home for 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, I think that's the thing that people that management tries to understand, is that there's a core understanding that unless they're away from their home, they get to go home every night. They get PTO, they get their holidays off, they have that.
Hmm.
And, they're coming from, I think some of their statements come from a place where I'm not saying that they're disingenuous, but I don't think they actually reach the level of empathy because they can't be in our shoes unless if they've been in the industry before and they have had that experience, then they can channel that and express that. But I think management needs to just, I challenge them to really put themselves in our shoes and say, hey, yeah, you know what, it's Christmas. Hey, I know, it's a tough time. Maybe give things more optional. Maybe there are drivers who don't mind being out on Christmas. Maybe there's who don't mind being out, and being able to get to know drivers as people as opposed to a, a rear end in the seat.
Mm, yeah. I mean, that is difficult for them, when they're in there to imagine what it's like to be in the truck. I know I had one young man, he stepped in the truck and he's like, man, this is what it's like. I've never been in the truck, So even not able to see what we're going through, it's hard for the mind to really expand because they're looking at that monitor. They're looking at those loads coming in. They're looking at those pull times that got to be done. They're looking at when things got to get delivered and stuff like that. hey, man, that's two different worlds, but we got to work together. We got to keep pushing ourselves. It's a practice that we have to not give up on and not just say, hey, this is the way it is. It is what it is. I need you to get this done. So yeah, great emphasis for management to push harder in those meetings when they're encouraging their leaders to do or get tasks completed or to meet revenue standards. Add that in. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough.
We all have a job to do. I mean, we're out here. I mean, nobody made us be drivers, and I get that. I respect that completely. I just think that there could be more fruitful discussions
Hmm.
in getting to know each other. We understand that you have loads that you're sitting there on a screen and you've got deadlines you have to handle, and I'm trying to understand you. I was on the desk side of transportation myself in safety for a number of years, so
Hmm.
I understand their side of the desk. So all we're asking is that you understand from our side.
Yeah, I mean, I think about these cameras they put into the truck and how they're just constantly the bells and the whistles and all those things are shit and making it safe. And it's like, well, would you want that in your office? You know?
It is challenging, and I understand because um, I understand that in the world we live in, that there are things that larger companies need to take into consideration, not only just for safety, but it also affects their bottom line with regards to insurance. And so I understand, but um, I think that, and it's funny. Harry has said this statement so many times. He's like, "They've made things so safe, somebody's going to get hurt."
I like that. Yeah.
And it's between like you said, all the alarms and the alerts and the notifications, and it's just you're absolutely wired. You're like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And then if you do, then you have follow-up phone calls. And again, this is safety doing their job. They have a directive. You're on a list. This
Yeah.
report pulls out a list and says, hey, you've done this, whatever the case may be, and they have to make a phone call. And now you've made um, this tumultuous relationship between safety and the driver, or dispatch and the driver, and that leads to the high turnover as well.
Yeah.
You have there's there it's such a grueling industry. And so I think anytime that I'm grateful that I was I was able to have the opportunity to put this all together, because there's so much going on in the industry that could push drivers away.
Hmm.
And that doesn't do anybody any good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, then they get even more clever and they come up with ways to have autonomous trucks and thinking that that's the answer. We don't know yet. We don't know if that's the way to go. It's still an experiment, in my opinion. So,
And
yeah.
that adds stress to drivers too. Drivers are, you have these larger companies, not necessarily the smaller companies. I'm not sure if the smaller companies are looking to do that, but especially in the mega carriers, they're looking into this as well, and drivers are just feeling that stress. That's
Mhm.
just adding to the stress. That oh my gosh, am I going to have a job in 5 years? Oh my gosh, I mean, these are serious concerns, and I'm not saying that autonomous trucks are the way to go. I'm not saying they're not the way to go, but I think that, again, we're not taking into consideration the human being behind the wheel, the human being who has poured their heart and soul, went to school, did the training, got the license, and has been, trying to support their families. It's, it's an added stress that they don't need.
Yeah, the good driver is still out there. He's trying his best to survive. There are some imposters that come into the industry that just want to think about the money, but also the good driver wants to think about the industry and how it's going to
Yes,
last and what they're going to leave for the next driver. So those
agreed.
drivers are still out there and they're still trying to make it work. And I think you're one of them as well. I mean, you talk about isolation. That's real. Drivers can go days and weeks without a meaningful conversation.
It is.
How did the isolation show up in your own experience, and was it subtle or did it hit you pretty hard? I mean, you did talk about it a little bit before. I wanted to touch on that again.
Sure. Well, being isolated from my family. I mean, my family and we had family and tons of friends up north, and it was when we first started driving together. It was only we were only out for a week at a time, and it was a shift, but we were able to handle it. We were able to make things happen, and then uh, there was uh, a, there was an element where now we were forced to be out like at least 3 weeks at a time
Mm,
because of we had a dedicated account and we lost that account, and the only thing they could offer us was OTR, and that meant and they said you're out for 3 weeks at a time at least.
wow.
And so that was a huge shift that again very heartbreaking for me. I'm close with friends and family that we missed terribly. But even within the truck, just being I felt lonely in the truck with my husband 3 feet behind me because he's got to sleep. He's doing what he has to do his job well. He's getting rest, and I
Mm,
can't take that from him. But at the same time, I'm sitting here and I'm driving on roads I've never been on. I'm doing what I need to do, but um, that missing that human element was it surprised me. I think there was what I think it was subtle, and I couldn't figure out what it was. Why was I, why am I feeling this? And then all of a sudden it came to me like I'm lonely, and it took me a while to process because I'm like, how am I lonely? I mean, he's 3 feet away from me, and then I realized, well, you know what? He's got to sleep. He needs rest. He'll come up and right before we leave, and then he goes in the back and he rests. And it's that was a shift that kind of that took me by surprise, and I think that there's you know that's an element that again getting the license is the easy part. These are things that you learn as you go on, and I think I was trying to figure out, well, what am I doing, how do I figure this out? And that was part of the inspiration to writing the book because I was looking for information. I was looking for this. I was trying to figure out, like, what am I doing, like, what am I doing wrong? And I realized that there really wasn't a resource there for drivers to say, this is what the lifestyle can do. This is what can happen. This is what you need to know before you get behind the wheel. And so the book actually became the resource that I was looking for. It's the book that I needed when
mm,
I started driving. That was the motivation because, I mean, we try and build a community out here. We have, I mean, CB radios. My husband has, we have a CB radio in our truck, and I will hear him talk at night to drivers. I'm not one to talk on the CB too much, but I will listen and I will make sure, like, if there's an accident on the road, somebody, you know, there's not a lot of them out there. There's not a lot of
yeah,
them out there anymore. But if somebody's on I try and let people know, hey, we have this accident at mile marker such and such here on air, and I will every once in a blue moon get somebody to say, thank you, driver. Appreciate that. So there are some of us out there. So we do try and get that connection and community out here. But when you're talking about family and friends, that's a whole different ballpark.
yeah.
And so it's important that we do try and make those connections. And that's one of the things you want to prioritize on the road, even if it's just a little bit, even, a 5 minute video, like a video chat or something while you're if you're taking your 30, hey, reach out to somebody that, means something that's meaningful, and just have, hey, just want to touch base with you. How are you doing today?
Isn't that nice?
And let them and make that connection, and keeps you grounded so that you don't feel like you're out here by yourself.
Man, how did that feel? I mean, what does that feel like? Maybe you can describe it in words when you are able to let a driver know there's an accident up ahead.
I think that we are part of that we are in ourselves our own community, that you feel like we are all working together, that we have this mission that we're doing. We may be always, we're driving for different companies, we have different trucks, but on in its core, we're all on the same mission. We're helping the country run. We are moving. We keep the country moving, whether it's groceries, um, whether it's Christmas presents, whatever the case may be. Medical supplies. We make sure that everybody gets what they need when they need it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, great job there. I mean, you're probably like a superhero out there on the road, guardian of the road. So good job, um, man. So You think about writing that book, all the time that goes into writing a book. I mean, I thought that the isolation part would lead perfectly into this part because, you did this from the cab, it sounds like. You recorded voice notes. You did things like journaling at rest stops, probably. And you did a lot of things reaching out to drivers and companies and getting their responses. I mean, what was that all like to put that all together?
I I think I wanted to look and see what could be possible. As you said, I've got, oh my gosh, I lost track of how many notebooks I have. I have in here, just writing notes, and as you said, video notes, and then just trying to bring it all together and saying, okay, well, how am I going to do this? Well, I mean, there are guidelines, and they talk about the tenets of driver wellness, health and nutrition, sleep and stress management. They all mention the FMCSA does mention all of that,
Mhm.
and but they just say, okay, well, this is you should take care of this. Well, how? That's how the framework came to be. Just being able to take notes and take my reflections and say, what can we do? What can we do to on the road? We are our strategies on the road, and Fred has his pro tips in there that we always need to people uh, and have get resources and make sure that all my information was correct, and doing the research, and then having the final product put together was very fulfilling. It was very healing in a way. It was something where I was able to put everything together and say, yeah, this is the book that I would pick up and say, this is what I was needing. This is what I needed. This is something that answered a lot of questions. This is something that gave me some practical tips. This is something that from written by somebody who speaking to drivers. I am a driver. I live it. I know what it's like. I get it. And hopefully, if one driver can pull one sentence out of the book and say, you know what, that makes sense. I want to try that. Or one somebody from management can say, yeah, okay, I get that. I can relate to that. Hopefully, then I feel like that's a job well done.
Nice. That is amazing that you're able to do that, get that done, package it all up for someone to have a better experience, and also help companies to be successful. Like I said, speaking directly to leadership, you're getting the word out there. You're helping them to see how drivers can be successful, how they can build a program to help them build a better future for their fleet. So great job with that. That's awesome. Some parts of reflection.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Some parts of reflection. I'm going to throw a few questions in. What's one thing the public misunderstands about truck drivers?
That they like being alone. I
Mm.
think just whenever you talk about, you hear a truck driver, they're alone in the cab, or they this lone wolf, tough exterior, weathered, worn, road weathered uh, husk of a person, and but the reality is that a lot of them want that connection. If they're at a truck stop, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee?
Mhm.
That would go a long way. And I think the idea is that we're human beings,
Mhm.
and that we there's more to us than just what we do. And unfortunately, that's, I think, the biggest misconception is that because we live life out on the road, we do tend to embody this job. We do become the job, literally. But
Mhm.
there's so much more to us than the job. So we have to be willing to not only let people in, but to uh, let people know that, yeah, that's what we like. This is who we are. I play. We play music. I'm a music. I was a music teacher for 20 years. I let people know that. Be able to share stories with people and let them know that there's more to us than the job.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes I have to ask for forgiveness because I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm a trucker. Sorry, guys. My schedule's all over the place right now. It's just, or the anxiety that comes with it all. They're like, man, what's going on with you? You're at a 9.
Oh, of
So yeah,
course. Of course.
yeah, it's nuts out there. Trying to make it all work and trying to make people feel comfortable. What's one habit that builds resilience on the road?
One habit that builds resilience, I think, would be giving yourself grace
Mhm.
and not trying to be perfect all the time. I think that when we have this never ending list of things that we want to do, and that, well, first of all, that we need to do, we've got to drive safely, we've got to watch our ELDs, we have to um, we have to be safe, we have to keep on schedule, there are all these things that we have to do, and we have to do that to the best of our abilities. And then of course we have our priorities where we want to try to get our health in, our sleep, our good nutrition, our hydration. And I think we have to give ourselves that grace, that cushion,
Mhm.
to be not perfect all the time. We may not be able to get everything as well as we want to do. And so to build resilience, because if you're going to go with that 100%, I'm going to be perfect every day, all day, that's how you're going to burn out, and you're going to do yourself some real harm emotionally and spiritually and physically as well, because you put so much pressure on yourself to do the right thing all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, you can even put that with relationships as well. I mean, that's a huge thing I learned from one book I read. I think it's the 80/80 um,
Okay.
book there that talks about how you can help not just do 50/50 for each other, but if you do 80/80, you're going to drop below that 80 and then you're given the 50. If you try to do 100/100, that's just not attainable. It's not manageable. It's not something you can actually maintain. You're gonna feel like you shortchange somebody. But if you do 80, that number works out pretty good where you can feel like you're going above and beyond to help the other person to be successful. That's huge. So yeah, I mean
Yeah.
yeah, it works even for relationship. What you were saying there. So great job.
And there is, you have, obviously there are non-negotiables. We want to be as safe as we can, we want to be as dependable as we can. uh, but at the same time, we have, again, priorities with health and sleep and nutrition. And so we want to make sure we give that, give ourselves some grace. And once you start incorporating grace into your heart, even with work or relationships, you're going to find that you're building that resilience, that you can go further. That's what it's all about. It's taking the road and being able to go farther down the road because of the resilience that you're building.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest things that we could do is to forgive someone or ourselves. So that's something that has been done for mankind. So we why not share that with each other? Like you said, buying that a cup of coffee for somebody, it goes a long ways. So um,
Opening a door for holding the door open for the driver behind you.
yeah,
It's just little things, or even just a smile or a wave just going by, like, how you doing, good morning, just a good morning, just
yeah,
acknowledging that another person is there, like within, a couple feet of you.
hmm,
We're all, it's we're all part of this logistics transportation machine. But it's up to us to make those extend ourselves and say, hey, yeah, you know what, we're still human.
hmm.
I see
What's
you, you
one
see me.
right? Absolutely. Great job with that. What's one sentence you hope readers from your book, whoever they may be, all walks of life, do you want them to take away from after reading your book or listen to this podcast?
I would want them to hopefully understand that uh, truck drivers are people. They always have been people, and they have feelings, and they have emotions, and they have dreams, and that we want to make sure that they are heard and understood, and that if we're going to do anything to make this industry better, that we need to look at them as people, as whole human beings, and that emotional well-being is not a luxury that this industry can, you know, look away from anymore.
Hmm.
They need to take that. It needs to be emotional well-being, mental well-being needs to be part of the conversation for this industry to continue. Drivers don't want another keychain or a T-shirt or a pizza party. They want to be understood, and they want to be able to support their families and not have to become casualties at the same
Hmm.
time.
Nice, nicely said. I mean, think about all the things that we're doing. If all of these professionals were to leave the industry, what would that look like later? So we got to try to keep some of the talent in the industry and share that with the next generation. So a lot of people trying to do that. Great job. In closing, what's one lesson you learned on the road that you think you probably wouldn't have learned if you weren't in the truck?
Wow.
Last
I
classic. Yeah.
that's no, that's a good one. That's a good one. I would say that the lesson I learned is that if you don't hear or see somebody speaking out on a topic, become that voice. Be the
Mm,
person that says, "Hey, you know what? This is something that needs to be said. This is something that needs to be done." And I would have never, if you had told me 5 years ago that I'd be writing a book on how to make truck drivers handle this industry better, I would have said you're crazy. You're nuts. I have no idea but here we are. And it's because these experiences, and believe me, there have been some wonderful experiences out here too. I don't want to say it's all horrible, but there are times where drivers struggle. And if you want to keep drivers in the industry, you've got to talk to them as human beings. And so that's what I'm striving. That's the lesson that I learned, is that I became the voice for people who I would like to become. I shouldn't say I have become. I would like to become a voice for people to improve and be, if you're in management, maybe take a different approach to how they handle their drivers. If they're just starting out in the industry, that this is a resource that they can use toward thriving in their career. If they're a family member, they can look at their driver and work together as a family to make this uh, something where make the situation work as best as it can for their
yeah,
situation.
absolutely. Yeah, and thank you. And you provide that tool so that it can be done. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, you got to look at all that's going on out there. I mean, we got a lot to deal with just in the news headlines. There's a lot of things going on there. So let's stay focused out on the road, stay focused on who we are and what we're becoming and how we're be able to be used in the industry to help not just ourselves, but all those that are out there. So I appreciate you doing that. There's been a lot of talk about trucks and efficiency, but not enough about the human behind the wheel. And that's what you're doing. So you're making that change possible and be the change that you want to be. Like you said, speaking up, I mean, that goes in right along with TAT, Truckers Against Trafficking. So what a great thing,
Yes,
just even on that level too. So I love what they're doing. I love the mission that they're trying to accomplish. The more we can get involved, the more we keep talking about it and keep it on the forefront of our minds, I think it's going to help everyone. So
agreed.
yeah, yeah. So the book, The Rough Road Ahead, I got one coming in the mail. I'll put a
Oh,
picture out
great.
there and I'll post it. Yeah, so I'll be digging into it as well. I just didn't time it good where it would be here for the show. I apologize for that, but I'm going to dig into it myself. And so let everyone else
That's
know
okay.
where they can find you and where they can connect with the book. What's the best way to get that going if they
Well, the
want a
best way
book?
you can get the book is go right to, oh, sure. If they want the book, you go to our website, which is www.compassconvoy.com. And that is actually our home hub for all of our vlog activity. Just a typical day of trucking is my daily vlog, and you can see me all over social media. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. So you could check in there. But if you want a direct connection, the website www.compassconvoy.com is the way to go. And that's can get you, and you can get the book in a physical copy and an ebook.
Mm.
So if you don't feel like carrying a physical book with you, if you want to have both of them as a reference, we want to make that happen. There's also that website also has a monthly uh, blog article that I produce, and that has different elements of driver wellness. There's a different topic every month, from sleep to nutrition to surviving the holidays. So look for that every month. I'd love to see people interested, and I want to make sure that I can provide resources for people to survive on the road.
Yeah, I mean that vlog is really good. I mean, think about all the things that people deal with each day. It needs updated, and that's what you're doing. You're putting in that work to keep them updated with those changes, and hey, and that way we stay fluid. You know, we stay agile. We're able to make the moves and the necessary changes, just like driving a truck out there on the road. So, great job, and everyone out there listening. If you like what you see, if you like what you hear, please be sure to reach out to us on that'sdelivered.com and also on anywhere you get your streaming podcast networks. Be sure to let us know if you have any questions or concerns you want us to reach out and talk about on the show. We'd love to hear from you. Also, share this episode with anyone you can. This way, it helps bring awareness to all the great things that are going on in the industry. People need to hear what's going on. A lot of companies also can learn from a lot of great tools like your book, The Rough Road Ahead. So, thank you so much. And until next time, I'm Trucking Ray, and that's delivered.